Welcome everyone to the 2026 Equine Sector Session. I'm Justine Staten, Kansas Horse Council, and for the next hour and a half, we'll cover the current status of some hot topics, as well as the arena infrastructure projects that have been going on for a couple years, and update on the Flint Hills Trail and a celebration of sorts.
Thanks. During the presentation, please make sure your microphones are muted. If you have a question during the presentation, please use the chat button. Questions and comments will be monitored throughout the presentation. When you ask a question, if you could identify yourself and organization, that would be helpful to us. And lastly, the webinar is being recorded and will be posted at a later date. Each year, we review opportunities for growth in the equine sector and challenges standing in the way of growth. We then prioritize them as far as what is most pressing to work on and review what successes we've been achieved to date. Following some reflection, we kind of reorganize those priorities for action in the following year. Occasionally, we see big swings in what the sector is wanting as a priority and as an action item in the following year. Occasionally we don't see that, and our focus could be at, sometimes we just see little shifts, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So these were the 25 priorities that were identified during last year's equine sector breakout session.
Yeah, so we can roll through those, and I won't read all of that, but when it's shared with you later, if you want to go back and look at it, you can kind of read through the details of those. So next slide. So adding and improving the Equine Expo infrastructure that was the priority number one outcome from 2025. After that was defining horses as livestock came in second. And then increased trail maintenance, trail riding promotion, and opening of new trails for equestrian use came in third. Appointing a dedicated Kansas equine extension specialist came in fourth. Sharing equine economic impact information came in fifth, and supporting consumer demand of entry-level experiences to equine activities came in sixth. Developing equine handling protocol for emergency response and for law enforcement came in seventh. Restoring federal appropriations for USDA inspectors as it applies to horse exports and horse processing came in eighth. Establishing an equine checkoff program came in ninth. And supporting the Kansas horse racing as needed came in 10th. We'll start today with an update on the Horse Protection Act, and here to share that with us is Julie Broadway, president of the American Horse Council. Julie.
So thank you so much for the invitation to speak with you. Can you hear me okay, Justine?
Yes, coming in great.
Okay, so my main topic today is about what our progress or lack thereof with the Horse Protection Act. But in order for me to give you that report, I need to begin by telling you that we are embarking on a new economic impact study. The only way to get things done in Washington is to have facts and figures to be and have a persuasive argument. And the most important thing that came out of our last economic impact study in 2023 is that there are over 50,000 horse shows, events, and competitions across the country every year, which we think totally shocked the U.S. Department of Agriculture when they were thinking about these new regulations for the Horse Protection Act. I don't think they even really grasped in 2024 when they rolled this out what they were asking for. I also want to say to you that we are embarking on a new economic impact study. It will come out in late 2027 or early 2028. We know we have $177 billion annually that we contribute to GDP, 2.2 million jobs. We still need another 125,000 workers. That's on our laundry list of things we need. And consequently, the value of an economic impact study is, I don't even know how to put a price tag on it because it is so essential to making our case and our argument. So I just lay that out there for you guys to think about. We are doing a national study. We will do state breakouts. We will do breed or discipline breakouts. Last time we did some community breakouts for smaller areas who wanted to understand if they built a new arena, what might be the economic impact to the local community. So just FYI, that's where we are. So I'm going to pause there and back up and talk about the Horse Protection Act. You guys can ask me whatever questions you like about the economic impact study or about the Horse Protection Act, and I'll do my best to answer them. So the USDA, as you know, came out with proposed regulations in 2024. We have been fortunate to convince them to postpone the implementation of those regulations twice. So right now they're scheduled to go into effect in December of 2026, so the end of this year. We think that postponement reflects our significant concerns about the rules' substance and their potential impacts on the equine community, as well as their departure from a much more targeted, risk-based enforcement approach. We really want them to think long and hard before they expand the scope of this beyond the breeds that have a history of soring. So at this time, we have written a letter to them, 1st of August, saying to them that the 2027 competition year is just months away from opening, that some breeds and disciplines begin their competition year on October the 1st, some begin on November the 1st, and the American Horse Council has been receiving calls from show management saying, okay, what's going to happen? What do we know about this? So we have asked them to give us ample advance notice of what their intentions are. So no later than October 1, they are due to give us a written response as to what their plans are. Now, I will caveat that by saying that some of the administration leadership were at our conference in June, and we clearly heard them publicly state that they will not enforce the suspended rules and regulations until the new regulations are finalized. But the industry is not feeling so confident in just that verbal explanation. We really want something in writing. And the words that I use to them is that our confidence in USDA is very strained. We really respectfully would like to ask them to give us a prompt clarification about what their next steps are, what their timeline is, what might be the possible process for public input and engagement, and if there's going to be any kind of interim compliance expectations. We have heard, this is a little anecdotal, but we have heard from a number of show organizers that given the proposed regulations they rolled out in 2024, we have organizations that are saying we're having trouble getting insurance coverage. We are very concerned about the overall economic impact this might make. We are a small venue or a small competition. We do not have the staff to comply with some of the things they're asking for in the regulations. And thus, everybody's really on edge about trying to figure out how they would go about complying if these regulations were to go in effect starting the 1st of next year. So we're asking for a written response from them to give us plenty of time to prepare ourselves. We want to be in compliance with what they're asking, but we need to know what their schedule is. So we said, please give us a written response no later than September 1, since we have some competitions that their calendar year starts October 1st. That gives them a little time to get themselves organized. And we really want to be clear about where we go from here. I actually wrote to Bernadette Juarez today that said, hey, the clock is ticking. Where do you think we are with this? We really need to know. I have not heard back from her, but that's where we are. Now, meanwhile, the American Horse Council has been working very closely with a number of stakeholders in the industry to craft a new piece of legislation. We are calling it the Horse Protection Improvement Act. And Representative Goldman has agreed to champion that, and he's going to introduce it for us. And we are, in the next week, I think, really close to finalizing the language. The main point that I would say to you guys is what we're trying to do there is to create a clear scope for them that says these are the breeds that are covered, not everybody. And we're also providing some outlet for those breeds that are covered to address their concerns about due diligence. So there's a inspector and a re-inspector. So there's two opportunities there. So those breeds feel like they get ample due process. We feel really good about where we are with it. The animal welfare groups have been involved with the conversation. We think we are really close to some final language. And I'll just pause there, Justine, and say, did I not address something you wanted me to address? Because those are the key elements I can cover in the time you allowed me.
I know that wasn't much time. I think you covered everything. I think the only thing that I recalled after our conference in June was that Bernadette was rolling out some kind of a survey type of a program where they're sending inspectors to the walking horse shows. Is that correct?
That is correct. They have announced that they are doing some anonymous inspections. There will be no horse name, trainer, owner information recorded. They are just collecting some data so they know exactly kind of where they are. She did publish a note recently that said this is what they've found so far from 41 inspections. It is a little nerve wracking because they want to go to a number of breeds that don't have any history of soaring so that they have a comparative data set to say, hey, we don't see this happening in quarter horses, we don't see this happening in this breed or that breed, but we need to collect that data so we can make our argument. So that has started, Justine, and we're still kind of digesting what they're learning from that because it's a little interesting to see how that's coming together.
All right. Well, appreciate the update very much. Thank you, Julie. You always do a great job staying on top of that. Well, another topic that's been in the news this year is the New World screwworm. And early on, I think many people may recall there was a sport horse that was being imported, found to be positive with carrying a New World screwworm. After quarantine and treatment, they successfully were able to release that horse. But where are we at today? So to give us an update today, let me introduce you to Dr. Justin Smith, Animal Health Commissioner for Kansas with the Department of Ag. Dr. Smith.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to try the screen sharing thing and see if it works. That work?
Yay, yes.
Yeah.
Excellent, cool. No, thanks everybody, and Justine, thank you for the invite. And yeah, I'm going to cover a couple things that have obviously been in the news regarding from an animal health perspective, and one of them in particular, New World screwworm. So I won't spend a lot of time on the fly itself. I'm hoping that folks have heard this in the news and stuff, but we'll talk a little bit. But just wanted to show you some of the different pictures of the different life stages of this fly. The fly itself is frankly not a whole lot different looking than what we have out there today in our normal stables, but there is some distinctions to that. And honestly, you're probably not ever going to see that fly. It's kind of a reclusive fly. It doesn't spend a lot of time out there in vision and to be visible. So, but what we are concerned about is those three larvae right there in the center. Those are the larvae that cause the damage, and that's what we're dealing with. And frankly, that's why it's gotten the name the screwworm. Basically, because of its ability and frankly those conical spheres you see on that worm that actually serve as an ability to screw down into live tissue in that. So with that said, this fly is a tropical fly. It won't survive and sustain temperatures below 45. So from a Kansas perspective, that's good. We always feel like if for some reason, unfortunate, that we actually get this fly in Kansas, that at least if we can hang out till winter, we'll get a reset from that perspective. The thing about it is all warm-blooded animals are susceptible. It's not contagious from animal to animal. It takes the fly for that to happen. But what happens is that female fly is looking for a place that is conducive to the survival of her eggs. And so she's going to go lay eggs at any kind of a wound that she can find. And these wounds can be very, very minor. They talk about even like bat bites or a tagging site on some of these cattle can be a big enough wound that she'll lay eggs around, and or mucous membranes and such as the nose, ears. And something that's very significant to the horses is around the genitalia. A lot of these, I shouldn't say they have found it in, and frankly, the horse that you referenced from the very beginning, they found it in and around the prepuce area of the penis. And so it does take some looking for some of these places for these where they'll lay these eggs. The key thing is this larva is different than our normal maggot of our house flies or our stable flies in the fact that this fly actually feeds on living tissue and so can cause a tremendous amount of damage, pain, obviously, and left unchecked can actually cause death in some of these animals. The other thing that's really key is, and this is part of our control mechanism or our fighting it back, is the female fly will only mate once in her lifetime. That remember that's key, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The other thing is this from a food animal perspective, this is not a food safety issue. If we can trim these wounds out and that we can, frankly, this animal can go on to be a productive food animal from that throughout their life. So the screwworm itself has a relatively simple lifespan and a life cycle is that, like we talked about, that an adult fly will lay those eggs around the wound within about 12 to 24 hours. And some of that is temperature sensitive, environmental temperature sensitive. Those eggs will hatch out into the larva, and that's where we'll start seeing what we're considering the screwworm actually is. This larva will actually start burrowing down into this live tissue out there. That lasts for about 5 to 7 days, and then that larva, once it reaches maturity, will pupate or develop into this brown cocoon that's over here on the right hand side, and that's what will go down in the soil and excuse me and develop into that adult fly again. So that pupa, that's the one that has the opportunity to live in that soil for a relatively extended time if the temperatures aren't right. But if we can get that soil temperature down below 45, we'll actually kill that pupa off. And so again, that's what we're looking for during the winter months. So won't spend a lot of time on this. If you go to the Texas website or the USDA website, USDA New World Screwworm Dashboard, you'll see this on there. This is just kind of an active case is what's going on down in Texas right now. So they're frankly, Texas is doing a bang up job of trying to keep this at bay and keep it out of our doorstep in that respect. And so you'll see that the first case in Texas was on June 3rd. Since then, they've had 44 active or 46 cases. They've still got 44 of them are what we consider inactive, meaning that the animal that had the wound has healed up. That doesn't mean that the infested zone that's been around that area is gone. In fact, we haven't released any infested zones yet. But the key thing to remember is a case is considered a single animal. So frankly, we've had 46 animals in the United States now that have been positive for New World screwworm. So, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot, but at the same time, we also know there's a lot of flies out there that made that happen. So we're always at risk. In fact, they just identified a new sheep, I think, down in Texas yesterday. So it's not over with by any means. So how are we going to respond to this? And this is kind of what a picture depiction of how that's going to look like. We're going to basically, around that infested premises, we're going to establish an infested zone. And so you're going to see a zone of 12.4 miles or 12 and a half miles in radius that we're going to establish there. That's where the impact is going to come from on a producer side, and the fact that there's movement restrictions, there's requirements within that infested zone. To get out of that zone, you've got to do certain things, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's where the impact's going to be. Additionally, there's going to be another adjacent surveillance zone established around there, and that's where we're going to be doing a lot of looking at animals. We're going to be setting up fly traps in an effort to try to trap these wild flies. And then that's where we're going to establish some of our control methods. And namely, it's this sterile fly release or sterile insect release program that has proven very effective over the last 50 years. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like here in just a second. So based on that, that's what Texas is doing. They're setting up those zones around there, and they're not going to be perfect circles. If you go on the maps and look at Texas's website, they're kind of laid over each other, and they're following geographical areas. The idea is that this fly, like I said, is a tropical fly. It likes the males actually hang out in the plant material. So it's looking for an area that is conducive to the survival of that fly, and they're going to establish those zones around there. Since the outbreak has started, we've had 14 animal disease investigations here in Kansas, meaning that we've had 14 cases that people had myiasis in a wound and had some suspicions, and we've went out and pulled some of those larvae, sent them in on an official foreign animal disease investigation because it did look suspicious. Fortunately, all 14 of those have been deemed negative. That's not to say there's also not a lot of specimens been submitted to the diagnostic lab on behalf of producers themselves that have been proven negative as well. So we've got people out there looking. As a horse owner, as a enthusiast out there, I would continue to impress upon you, keep your eyes out. Our best mechanism of fighting this is getting eyes on our animals. And so, if you have any concerns or if you have any suspicion, make sure that you let your veterinarian know or even call our office here at KDA. But since 26, we've had 15 movements, or June, I'm sorry, of 26, we've had 15 movements from the Texas infested zones down there. 21 of movements actually come out of that Texas surveillance zones. As we get into fall, we're starting to see those number of movements increase, and so we get those paperwork, those documents every day. So the way the process works is that you have to do some planning. This is not just a just-in-time process. And the fact that if you know that you're going to move animals out of one of these infested zones, first of all, you got to get a veterinary inspection. You got to get somebody out there to look these animals over and make sure. And when I say inspection, they got to look at them intensely to make sure we don't have any wounds, and worse off, have wounds that might have myiasis involved in it. The other thing they need to do then is they will actually, out of these infested zones, we're going to have proof or need proof that they've done some prevention treatment. And depending on what that treatment is when it has to happen. So certain treatments have an efficacy of 21 days. Some treatments don't have an efficacy for more than 10 days. It takes 3 days to get blood levels up. So all depending on what that treatment looks like, we got to make sure that that's done. Once all that is accomplished, then the veterinarian will write a certificate of veterinary inspection on those animals, or a CVI or health paper, as some of you may make reference to it, as well as then they must call up to Kansas and get a permit number that we are willing to accept those animals. Once those animals arrive in Kansas, or even before then, we're reaching out to the destination and providing some education at destination, making sure that they're aware that they're receiving animals out of an infested zone, and then asking them to continue to monitor those animals for no less than 2 weeks. So we ask them to keep them somewhat confined and monitor those animals for 2 weeks, just in case something got missed or the wound was small enough or something of that sort. So that's what's happening out of these infested zones. Likewise, if we were to get that in Kansas, the other states are going to require this out of us. And frankly, from an infested zone, we're going to require this out of any animals moving from an infested zones, whether they're going across the county or across the state. So just as a kind of a awareness that there is processes, and you got to plan if you happen to be unlucky enough to fall within one of these infested zones. So what happens if you are in a zone or you've been exposed to, potentially you've been in a region that they've identified the fly? What is going to have to happen? And so with that, a lot of it is related back to what I just said, and the fact that we're going to ask for an enhanced inspection by the veterinarian or a certified inspector. And when I say enhanced, that's more than just looking over the fence line or watching the animals go up a chute into a truck. There's an expectation that those animals are truly inspected to make sure they don't have wounds. In the case of horses, unfortunately, a lot of times it requires some sedation so that we can get them extended, so we can look at those gildings or their studs to make sure that we don't have an infestation that we're not aware of. The other thing is from a horse perspective, we are a little bit hamstrung in the fact that we don't have a lot of approved products for horses for this issue. One of the things out there is an approved topical treatment, Archeon. Frankly, I'm not totally familiar with it, other than I know it's kind of a natural botanical product, but ARS, or the American Research Service, Agricultural Research Service, feels like it's probably effective. In fact, Texas have used it historically for the cattle fever tick, horses coming out of that region. So they do feel like it probably does have some effectiveness. The other one is an approved systemic treatment. Again, FDA is rapidly trying to approve these products as we go on. But we do have, there's not numerous ones out there now, but one that is out there is Dectomax. We recognize the fact that these, horses we don't like to inject with these products, and so they're trying to get some approvals made on some other alternative applications, such as orally or even topically in that respect. Then we would need that certificate of movement of inspection, as well as in that movement permit that's out there. One of the things I didn't get in the slides, but is also how we're fighting it, and it has to do with this sterile insect technique. So long story short is, going back to the fact that that female will only mate once. Our goal is that we're sterilizing these population of flies and releasing them in these regions. Our hope is that we can saturate these regions to where then that female will mate with a sterile male, and subsequently the eggs that she lays will be sterile as well. That's been proven to work. That's how we pushed New World screwworm back to Panama back in the 50s and 60s, and that's how we hope to do it again. Where we're a little bit problematic is the fact that because of the geographical region that this is in, namely Mexico and Texas, we don't have enough sterile flies, and so we're having to use and disperse those out as we can and utilize them. If you've seen the press, obviously we're building more capacity to do that, but it's not online yet, and probably won't be online for at least probably another 8 months to a year. So we've got to use what we have judiciously. That's where the inspection process is vital important, in the fact that we don't have all the tools we need, at least at the numbers we need at this point in time. So the other thing that's out there that we're keeping a close eye on is the Asian longhorn tick. So again, this is a relatively new pest that's moving across the United States. It was first identified in the US back in 2017. There is some speculation that maybe it was actually here longer than that, but that was when it was first truly identified. And it actually was identified in New Jersey. With that said, the eastern central states, the Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, they've been inundated with it right now, and it is gradually moving to the west. The thing that we won't talk about here is that this tick is associated with another protozoa. It is a protozoa called Theileria that truly is impacting our cattle operations and our cattle health at this point in time. If you've heard about anaplasmosis, it's like anaplas, but that's the impact that it's having on the cattle. Theileria is specific to cattle, so it's not a horse issue, but the tick itself is in that respect, as we continue to see it as it moving west. So this tick is from the visual eye, looks like the normal tick. The thing is about it is it starts out as a very, very small. So you can see over there on the left-hand side, those are all tick larvae. Or the first nymph stage of that tick, compared to a human fingernail. So it's a relatively small tick out there. But the thing about this tick is we call it a swarming tick, and the fact that if you find one, you will typically find multitudes and hordes of these. So that ear there is all of those are ticks in there. You can see that blade of grass that's got numerous ticks on it. People that have responded to this and gone out and done surveillance talk like that. When they get into these swarms, they'll look down and their pant leg has just got thousands of these ticks that are crawling on it. So it's truly a swarming tick. I did mention before, it is the biological vector for Tillaria orientalis Aikido, which is that Tillaria that we talk about in our cattle industry. Again, not a concern for humans, not a concern for horses, but it definitely is a concern for our cattle operations. So the life cycle of this is kind of unique, and frankly is from the entomologist point of view, is why that we've seen the expansion we have in the United States as rapidly as we have. You can see the life cycle on there. What some of the unique things is that it's a 3-host tick. And so long story short is what happens is it'll go on to a mammal, feed, drop off, mature some more, then go on to another mammal and feed, develop into the second nymph stage, drop off, and then subsequently end up in a third animal in feed before it starts laying eggs. Why that's unique is it has the opportunity to from a biological vector point of view, the talaria point of view, is truly infect three different cattle, or three different other animals out there. And the other thing is so we know that it has this, and so it has the ability to propagate, which is why you'll see such huge numbers of these ticks in the fact that if it happens to get on your horse per se, there's a possibility of seeing multiple stages of this same tick as it's feeding through there. The other thing that's really unique about this tick, it's got a fancy term called aparthenogenic, which frankly means that it can sexually reproduce without a sexual partner. It doesn't need a male. So females can reproduce without having a male. They've got a wide host range. So all you need, frankly, is one tick. And everybody tells me that our entire Asian longhorn tick population in the United States is all females. We've never found a male because they can continue to produce without that. So that again, along with other things, has allowed this progression fairly rapidly from across the United States. So this is a map of where the tick has been identified. You can see the orange ones up to 2024. I mean, obviously certain states found it earlier than that. But the Kentuckys, the West Virginia, frankly, they consider themselves endemic. 80% of their cattle herd has had ticks. They've got 80% of their counties within those states have these ticks. So it's considered endemic there. You'll see Kansas is blue. We've had two indications of the tick here in the United area in the state of Kansas. Both of those were reported in eastern Kansas. One of them was in Franklin County in October of 2025. What is really odd about this issue is that it was on a dog, which can always be on any warm-blooded animal, but that's not its preferred host. When we went out to do the surveillance, and I say we, KDHE, as well as local extension and entomologists have done a lot of surveillance in that region trying to find the additional ticks. And you remember I talked about it being a swarming tick. So if you find one, you ought to find multitudes. We've never found another tick out there. So this dog was reported not to have moved or not have been out of state, but I'm not sure that, it does bring speculation, I guess, of what that is and how that dog truly got infested with this tick. The other place we found it in Johnson County along a hiking trail. They found a nymph or an immature stage, but again, on all the follow-up surveillance, they haven't found another tick. So there's no reason to think we don't have it in Kansas. We just haven't had it reported. And the tick itself is a reportable disease, a reportable organism that is required to be reported to us, more for a surveillance component to it, but we just haven't had that. But you can see Missouri, the slashed or the purple slashed color counties is where they've identified the tick. The green is actually where they have Tyleria in their cattle. So they've seen an explosion in Missouri. Again, no reason to think that we don't have the tick here in the state of Kansas. We've got the environment for it, it's conducive for it. The only speculation that people have said is that our practices of burning the Flint Hills in the spring may have been contributed to help keeping this at bay. But there's we expect it to come. We expect it to be here. We just got to be aware of it and do what we need to do to mitigate that. And then lastly, I threw this in ad lib, West Nile virus. So we are back into the season. August, September tends to be our most prevalent for West Nile, both from a human perspective as well as from a horse perspective. So we did have two cases that were identified 10 days ago, both of them up in the northwest region of the state, and they just happened to be on the same day. We got two diagnostic test reports from that. We've not received another one since. But with that said, West Nile it's out there. We have the mosquitoes that are out there. And frankly, I'd put a plug in the fact that we have an effective vaccine. The vaccine seems to be very, very effective. There's been very, very few horses over the last 5 to 7 years when we do the follow-up that were vaccinated horses that came down. And if they were vaccinated, it was a year ago type of a deal. So again, put a plug in for the vaccine. It seems to be very effective, but just wanted to make you aware, if you have symptoms associated with West Nile, such as nervous systems, neurological systems, deficiencies, make sure you get a hold of your veterinarian. It is treatable. They just need to get to it fast is what it amounts to. So it's in your own best interest to engage early in that. So with Justine, I don't know, I didn't watch the clock, so but yeah, that's kind of fast and rapid, but happy to entertain questions as appropriate.
So I'm thinking in terms of our horses as vectors, as if, we go trail riding or we go out, out of state and we're in the woods or whatever. So will fly spray kind of mitigate our risk on some of the ticks and other pests?
So yeah, we do think, I mean, any of those pesticides have some effectiveness as far as preventing that. Now, as well as I do, it certain times of the year they're not always that effective, and so, but I think they're a good tool. I think the big thing is also just make sure you observe your horses, and if you find those ticks, get them removed out there. Our typical wormers, the Ivomec, the Dectomaxes, and stuff like Modectin, they will affect those for a period of time as well. So keep your horses up on that. But no, you hit it on the mark. I mean, use those fly sprays, those good quality fly sprays, rub them down, and just make sure that when you come out of those regions that you take a gander at your animals and make sure that they're not carrying something.
All right. Thank you so much for that great information and updates on everything. Really appreciate your time, Dr. Smith.
Not a problem. Thank you, and thank you for the invite.
All right, so next we're going to move into the adding and improving equine expo infrastructure, which was priority number 1 from last year. It has repeatedly been among the top 3 year after year. And today I think we'll hear some successes in that area. So let's see, to start off, do we have Jackie McClaskey or Kaylin Allen available to kick it off with American Royal? I'm going in alpha order.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop on today for Jackie. My name is Kaylin Allen. I just joined the American Royal team about a month ago. I'll share my screen here. I know you guys have probably seen the renderings a handful of times of kind of what we have going on out here in Kansas City, but I want to make sure that you guys can kind of see what we've got going on today here. So I will see if I can get my screen to share here. And then I will pull up this. Tell me when y'all can see this PowerPoint here.
There we go.
Perfect. All right. So, like I said, I'm sure that you guys have seen kind of what's happening at the American Royal. We've got construction crews out here 7 days a week.
Oh, can you put it in presenter mode? There we go. Thank you. Just
do you see it?
Well,
we see presentation, your view, not the presentation itself.
Let me see here if I can switch it around. How about that? Better?
Perfect.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, no, but so we've got construction crews out here 7 days a week, working at all hours, trying to get this done. But this was a picture from this morning. So right now, where we stand, right off of State Avenue, we are so close to reaching the completion of what we so lovingly call our barn phase. So what we have here is a 5-gable exhibition hall. This is looking at the south side of it. I'm standing on the southeast corner of it right now. So 5 barns, about 390,000 square feet of temperature controlled exhibition space. So when we look into this next picture, I'm standing over here right there on the east end. And this is our light at the end of the tunnel. You can see that we've got workers in there all over the place, getting the finishing touches put on everything. But when you see that light down there at the end of the tunnel, that is a 24 by 20 foot garage door. There's one on each of the east and west ends, but that is about 7 football fields away from where I am standing. So that kind of puts into perspective just how massive this space actually is. And then when we look at there's various doors throughout the entirety of the complex, but so we really wanted to design this to meet the needs because it's being an air controlled exhibition hall. We have our big doors, our 8-foot doors, and then what we call our man doors. So when we start hosting events, whether it be livestock, equine, anything else, these bigger doors will be open for check-ins as we get everybody in and get everybody settled. But then for the most part, especially in those summer months, we're going to shut those and we're going to lock them throughout the duration of the event. But those 8-foot doors are exhibitor controlled. So everybody can run those as they need, whether they think it's cooler with it open or cooler with it closed. We'll kind of make that a judgment call. But then we have these various man doors throughout the building as well. I mentioned it being an air controlled space. So if you look at the top of this picture, there is one of these air systems in each gable of the barn. And looking at it, it doesn't look that big, but at the end of it, it's about 6 feet in diameter. So I could stand with a little bit of change over top of my head at the very end of this. So these are some massive air systems. And the way that these work, we're able to completely exchange the air within the entire barn about every hour and 43 minutes. So about 14 times throughout the day, completely new air, making sure that we have the best ventilation system that we can possibly have. At the bottom of this picture, we are starting to get in some of our livestock and our equine stalling panels. So this is our shipment of horse stall panels that came in this week. And here's another picture of them as well. When everything is said and done, if we have just only horse stalls within this building, we have the ability to set up just over 1,540 usable horse stalls. So horse stalls without any of these columns interfering with them. Then with an additional 250 tack stalls, where it might bump into a column, but just the amount of space, the pictures don't actually do it justice. I can't wait for everybody to be able to come and actually see what we've got going on within this barn. This is a quick snapshot of our vet room. So within our building as well, we have a vet space and a farrier room so that we can have on-site services while events are going on. But then, as you can see, there's windows on these as well. So these can double as an educational aspect as well. When we get into other events, many of you have probably gone to the Kansas State Fair. They have the birthing center. That's something that we have the ability to set up within this space, so that we can use that educational aspect. But then also, in agriculture, as we know, sometimes everything's not all hunky-dory. So sometimes things go wrong. We have the ability to shut those as well, so that if somebody needs to take a moment to deal with something a little bit more serious, we have the privacy aspect of that as well. But the educational aspect is something that we really, really wanted to focus on. And we focus on that throughout the building as well, with various educational aspects and educational centered rooms throughout the building too. This is one of 5 wash racks that we have throughout the building. In the building in entirety, there's about 135 spigots within throughout these 5 wash racks, so that we will hopefully never be short on wash rack space or the ability to fill up any water. But the other really, really nice thing about these is each one will have hot water available in them as well. So we're not just running cold water in there too. So this is the one that they just got finished yesterday. Some of you may have actually seen it on some of the newsrooms, media spaces as well, but so they're working hard to get the rest of the lighting in, but these they've been set up so that we have the ability to tie up livestock, not to the plumbing, making sure that nothing would happen like that. And we have to give a shout out to Grand Island, because when we were building all of these different spaces, we wanted to look at different exhibition halls throughout the country and find out what was an absolute need, what was a want, and what would be the icing on the cake. And this was one spot we really wanted to focus in as well. It can kind of be hard to see, but if you look at the flooring on this as well, you'll notice that cement, that concrete has some texture to it. That was something that we really had to walk through with our construction crews, because when they build a hall or a warehouse this size, they usually are putting in completely smooth concrete. But this was a building that was designed for agriculture, but can accommodate anything else. So when you look in these spaces, the floor throughout the entirety of the building is textured and it is rough, so that we're not having to worry about animals slipping. In the wash racks and right outside the wash racks, the floor is rougher compared to the rest of the building, just because when they're coming out and they're dripping water, we want to eliminate as many fall and slip risks as we possibly can. This is a quick snapshot of one of our 4 hospitality rooms throughout the building. So a couple of these have 3 different spaces that they can be blocked off and hold multiple different events. But throughout, with the wash racks, we have, like I mentioned before, hospitality rooms, educational spaces. We'll have 2 concession stands that are running, feed storage, rodeo storage, just about anything that you can think of. Then when it comes to upcoming events, we actually have some coming up this fall. So September 10th through 14th, we have our first horse show, the Royal Showcase. And then right after that, starting the 18th and going through the 20th, we have our cutting horse show. Then we have a little bit of time before we host our World Series of Barbecue, followed by our 19-day livestock show. And we will be opening up to future rentals starting the 1st of September. So mark your calendars for next week. It's going to get really exciting and a whole lot of action going on here at the Royal. When we described this as the barn phase, originally when we started construction, the idea was that we would build it all at the same time, but we wanted to make sure that we would be able to host events within our barns while we built our arenas. So for right now, it is projected to be done March of 29. We have a good feeling, a good hope that we're going to be done a little bit before that. But until those arenas are set up, the multi-purpose arena, the outdoor arena, and our main arena, before those are set up, all events that need a full arena will still be hosted at the West Bottoms, because the last thing that we ever want is for the safety of our livestock or our competitors to be an issue. So anything that requires a full arena and horses to run fast will still be hosted at the West Bottoms. In barns 2 and 4, throughout our gables, they are set up wider so that we can have we can put an arena in that space, so that when it comes to future bookings, we don't necessarily have to rent out a whole arena. We can do it within the barns, and so that's how we're able to do our cutting horse show in our Royal Showcase this fall. But I know that was kind of rapid fire. I'm setting in today too, but if you guys have any questions, I will do my best to answer them at the end. But if I can't answer them, then we will get you to Jackie and we will get you an answer that we need. So
That's great. That's some exciting information there. Thank you for all those details that you got.
yeah, absolutely.
With any questions from the audience?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, well, you may be hearing some questions come up later. So thank you, Kaylin, for your time. That's a wonderful update. Definitely a success. Up next, we have Melissa Kreiner with Bilbray Family Event Center at Kansas State University.
Yeah, hi, my name's Melissa. I'll give you just a second to get slides pulled. I can tell you a little bit about myself first, so you kind of know who you're emailing if you reach out to use the Bilberry. So I grew up on a production turkey farm and showed registered goats, ABGA, and rode horses, just kind of trail rode throughout the lake I grew up near. My husband's a team roper. I run some barrels now, just in NBHA, so nothing too crazy. So I have some information and some pictures on these slides that will hopefully answer a lot of things. And then, of course, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well. So the facility itself is a premier venue for livestock and equine events. It's focused on livestock and equine, so there's no concrete under the dirt in the arena. We're never going to pull that dirt out. It's always going to stay like it is. And the goal of this venue is to create a destination for both current and future KSU students, Kansas stakeholders, as well as regional and national livestock industry to use that space. So aside from the 130 by 250 foot arena, and then complementing seating for just under 3,000 spectators, and that's just in the bleachers and the purple back seating, there's some flexible options where you could add a little more in the space as well. There is also the footing that is, I think, what's really important about this space. It's a total of 12 inches deep. It's designed by Jim Kaiser, arena footing specialist. Our drag is from him as well. And it's a mix of sand, silt, and clay. It holds water really well, so I actually really enjoy the texture it is from my perspective when you get enough water on it. And it also has a connecting 80 by 80 warm-up space with the same footing and an alley that runs into the main arena, which, as far as a barrel race, I think is pretty attractive. There are stock pins, bucking chutes, roping boxes. Those are all built to stay in permanently, so they don't take any of your arena space out if you're setting up for a rodeo. There's places to keep livestock under an overhang, and then that can work as a full return system. So if you're hosting a team event and running steers through a strip and shoot, you can run them back through that overhang space behind to bring a full return to back to the rope and shoot. So you're never pushing them through the arena itself, which can be difficult for sure. Some expected events would be rodeos, barrel races, team roping events, bull riding events. These are kind of just some of my ideas. Horse shows, livestock shows, equine and livestock related educational clinics. So open ride time, I'd like to start hosting that once a month. I have to figure out how I'm gonna advertise that so I can get all of you there, so you'll know when it is and have that information. And then hands-on educational activities for the KSU Animal Science Department. Some of our past events we've had so far is the K-State Collegiate Rodeo, the Little American Royal Livestock Show, the State FFA CDEs, both livestock judging and horse judging, Wildcat Showdown, KSU Livestock Judging Camps, Riley County Fair Horse Show, and the Potawatomi County Fair Horse Show. Some upcoming events, we just had the 4-H Livestock Sweepstakes this last weekend. The rodeo team is working on an alumni event that will be in November. I also just confirmed a date for an Extreme Bulls event, so bull bucking in November as well. And then the K-State Collegiate Rodeo will come up again in February, Cattleman's Day in March, Junior Swine Producer Day in March, and I have a rodeo scheduled for March as well. So busy month in March. I technically work for OVG rather than working for Kansas State University. So that's the Oakview Group. It is a company that is focused on the entertainment industry. They do a lot with sports and any kind of live entertainment. And they like to think really dynamically for those that we serve. So I'm there as a manager of the building to work with KSU and tap into those Oakview Group resources as well. So through that partnership at the Bilberry Family Event Center, you should be able to see the highest quality of customer service. That's kind of my goal. Lots of professionalism. I must have bumped the button. And access to all of the resources that OVG can provide. So if you're looking to host an event there, for example, I can source that event insurance for you, and it's one less thing that you have to worry about on your long list of things that have to get done to host a successful event. This slide is just my contact information. So there is an office phone number and email, bilberryevents@ksu.edu. I put my cell phone number on there as well as my personal KSU and Oakview Group emails as well. No matter which of those areas you contact, you're going to end up in contact with me. So that will be the best way to get a hold of anything for booking, pricing information, anything like that.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, that's so exciting. Again, another success. And it's been a long time in the making.
I don't have stalls yet. They're going through city approval right now. That's part of the Star Bond issue. So eventually we'll have stalls. We just don't have them yet.
All right. Any other questions for Melissa?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, well, we have her contact information. Feel free to reach out to her.
Yeah.
With new ideas, new events, etc. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
Well, next on the list is Eureka Downs, and there was a big meeting with the commission today, so I know our horsemen and our track folks are quite busy, so I will provide that update for you. Eureka Downs is progressing along with the infrastructure rebuild on schedule. There are some things we wish were already done because we are just all eager to see it, like the track rail, but it is on site and slated for establishment very soon. So where we're at is the whole track was completely resurfaced, elevated. It's meeting current safety standards. There's 12-inch deep footing there. So it should last for a while. And the south turn was widened for safety. There is brand new Duralock rail that is in from Europe. It is state of the art. It's flexible, therefore it's the highest rated safety for horses and jockeys. Those were obviously of high concern to the facility. So today was a meeting on the Kansas Spread Development Program incentives, as well as the condition book, which hopefully is what our horsemen will be attracted to coming and filling those races. The first race day is October 17th. This year we'll run a 6-day meet. So short, we call it kind of a soft opener, getting all the kinks worked out of things. So it'll be Saturday and Sunday each weekend. So the 17th through November 1st. And there is a stakes race on October 31st, $100,000 stakes race for quarter horses. We anticipate a lot of quarter horses at this track. And we just hope that everybody will come out and enjoy. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the economic impact, and that's really kind of the big motivator for this whole piece. So whether, and back to Julie's point, the arena venues and the shows that create such an incredible economic impact to the communities that are hosting it, that is extremely important. And racing is one of those things that creates that tourism dollar, as well as with the Kansas bred program. The goal is probably in the next 3 years or so to see a greater number of breeding programs established in the state. And we know that that is a boom for the agricultural industry because it increases demand for hay, demand for feed, increases fuel. And for every racehorse, there are 3 employees. So it's a jobs factor as well. So I think we've seen, I know K-State Vet Med has been thinking ahead about this, and I believe they're working to roll out phase 2 of their BTC center. So developing those auxiliary or additional services to support sport, horses. And I hope that some of our universities, equine science groups, will be excited about the possibilities of jobs that this will create. I mean, everything from grooms, it's just a great way to start getting the familiarity with the track jobs, because it's a whole community in and of itself. And so I don't know where to start. I could just ramble all day about all the opportunities there, but I'll go back to some facts, especially since Julie's talking about an equine economic impact survey coming again, 27, 28. We did ours in 2021, and the last one that we did here in Kansas was in 1996. In 1996, the horse population in Kansas was 103,000 in inventory. Of that, there was, you know what, I'm going to pull it up so I don't misquote it, but there was only 6,400 racehorses in Kansas at the time, which is a sizable number. But that wasn't even capturing the quarter horses. That was only standard breds and thoroughbreds counted as the racehorses at the time. So there was 2,700 standard bred racehorses and 3,700 thoroughbred racehorses. Total population of the quarter horses at that time was 58,900. So I know there was a demographic in 96 of racehorses, because we had pretty strong parimutuel races at the Woodlands and at Eureka and at Anthony Downs. So for some reason that wasn't captured in this inventory, but still 6,400 head of racehorses in Kansas is pretty impressive back in the day. Now, that total population obviously crashed when we lost racing, and we are now trying to build that back. So the current registered number of racehorses right now is 281. Of that, 100 and, well, let me look, I'll tell you, it's 230 are quarter horses. So they're coming back strong. And 46 are thoroughbred and 5 are paints. We want to see all the breeds grow in the state, and that is done through the incentives of the Kansas bred program and having good sizable purses to attract the interest of those from outside of the state. And obviously, when we bring horses in from outside of the state, it is a tourism dollar that the communities are gaining and that the state is gaining. And then we hope that they want to stay and be a part of that Kansas bred program. And then that becomes an even bigger exponential number for agriculture. Anyway, that was kind of my little plug for both the economic impact. I think we're going to see a need for capturing fresh data after this is well established. And I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Justine. I appreciate you plugging what we're doing. We do the economic impact study every 5 years. The national numbers are so important. But we also love to do the state and local breed discipline studies. So Kansas should certainly think about it because you haven't done one in a while. And it would be really great for you guys to consider how you might leverage that data. And I'm happy to talk to anybody that wants to about ways you can take that data and use it for advocacy, for justification, for build outs, and all those different nuances that come with that data. So thanks.
Good stuff. Yeah, and it was actually an updated figure that we developed, that we derived out of the 2023 AHC Economic Impact Study that kind of updated our 2021 data. And that showed our horse population, our inventory of horses in Kansas at 120,000 at the time. And what it was also interesting that was captured is that there were responses indicating 345,000 horse enthusiasts. So those aren't necessarily the horse owners. I think there was 8,700 horse owners with that large population of horses, but 345,000 horse enthusiasts. Those are people that you're going to want to bring to Bilbray Family Event Center to, sell a ticket to it and watch your event, or in some way engage. Maybe they want to become students and get involved in the equine industry. So, definitely opportunity right there.
This has been a lot accomplished, and since I've started being the equine sector lead over the years, it's fun. I've toured the American Royal facility a couple weeks ago, been at the facility at K-State, and I've also been at Eureka Downs. So it's exciting to see all those improvements and the draw those event centers are going to bring to our state. So. Another priority we focused on was about supporting the completion of the Flint Hills Trail. And Jeff Bender is with us today. He's a regional supervisor with the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, and he's going to update us on the Flint Hills Trail. Jeff?
Okay, can you pull up my slides there? You snuck that one in on me with my picture on it.
Just it was a good picture, Jeff.
It was up at Grand Teton National Park, actually.
All right. Looks like you got
Okay.
slides up, Jeff.
Yeah, that's first one. There we go. Let's go to the map. The next one. So I supervise the Flint Hills Trail and work a lot on the development of it. And so Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks got involved with the Flint Hills Trail in about 2014. It was rail banked in 1995, and a volunteer group had it for many years. Group kind of morphed a little and then became the Conza Rail Trail Conservancy. And we took it over from them, basically. We were asked to take it over and to help with the development and complete that. And we now develop and operate the trail. So the trail itself is 118 miles from Osawatomie, Kansas on the east end there, up to Ottawa, across Osage City, Council Grove, and eventually to Harrington. That'd be the whole 118 miles. The part that is open and usable right now is all of it from Osawatomie going west to Council Grove. What you're seeing there on that map, the solid green line is all that is all area that has been improved. Improvements are completed on that entire area through there. And then the dashed line at the east end is somewhat improved, not to the federal standards like we do, but it's open and usable. And then from Council Grove west to Harrington, it's not accessible yet, except for a short stretch out at Harrington. And we have a large federal grant that we were awarded in 2022, and we hope to start using the federal money at the end of this year, the beginning of next year, and start to complete that west end from Harrington back east towards Council Grove, and then to complete that shaded portion at the far east end to make the big improvements in that section there. Go ahead to the next slide. So this picture just shows the important other connections, and one of the real important things and neat things about the Flint Hills Trail is the connections it makes to other trails. So the Flint Hills Trail is the brown line on here, but the dark red one is the historic route of the Santa Fe Trail, and you can see west of Council Grove they overlap. For about 6 miles, the Flint Hills Trail will be directly on top of the historic Santa Fe Trail. And then in Ottawa, the green line going south there shows our Prairie Spirit Trail, which is also a state park now. Both trails are state parks. And the Prairie Spirit Trail was one of the first rail trails in Kansas. We started it and opened up the first section, I believe, in 1995. And that was 3 development phases, and it is 51 miles long. It connects out the southern end of the Southwind Trail, which I think is another 7 miles, and it goes to Humboldt. And it also connects to our newest state park at Iola, which is Lehigh Portland State Park. Something near Vassar, east of Osage City, the Flint Hills Trail is only a half mile from Pomona State Park. And we have some overnight horse facilities there at Pomona State Park that are usable. The nice thing about the Flint Hills Trail is it is entirely open for equine use. Prairie Spirit Trail is not. It's a narrower trail. But the Flint Hills Trail is open to horse use in its entirety. We also allow carriages and wagons to go on the trail. But we just ask don't do it in wet conditions because carriage wheels can cut into the surface pretty good. With that noted, there is sort of a personal exception depending on your horses or horse behavior is from Ottawa, Kansas, going west to the trailhead at Pomona. The trail is adjacent to the BNSF railroad line. Go ahead to the next slide. Let's flip forward again. So this shows the BNSF railroad there just west of Ottawa, and that is the busiest railroad line in Kansas. And the trail comes through Ottawa, then crosses over this. This is our newest bridge. We opened this up in May of 2025. This was several years planning and about a year and a half in construction. And this is a 240-foot long bridge on the trail that crosses the BNSF railroad. And this is the point at which the trail is very close and really adjacent to the BNSF line. So any horse use needs to be taken. You need to think about, how close you want to be to high-speed trains with your animal. I've seen some of them that handle it just fine, not going across this bridge, but over near Pomona where they handle it just fine. Some folks' horses, but they don't all behave the same. Go ahead, one more. This is the south end of the bridge, and where we have an observation deck at the south end of that new bridge. Go ahead, one. So since 2014, when we've been involved with Flint Hills Trail, this is the development that we've done. So far, we've done about $17 million of federal grant development on the trail. And we're just looking to start the $25 million raise grant that we were awarded. It's now called a build grant in 2022. And we're getting the agreement finalized up with the federal government where we can start using that and start the development out the west end and at the east end. We've done a lot of stuff, a lot of bridges, and about 71 total miles of total improvement. That's a lot for a rail trail. So Flint Hills Trail is the longest land trail in Kansas. So we don't, Texas doesn't have nothing on Kansas. We build big barns and big trails. How's that?
I like.
So that just shows you the scope of that's kind of the scope of the raise grant that we got. We hope to do about 40 and a half miles, which will almost bring the whole 118 to complete development, except for a very short section east of Ottawa. We'll worry about that later. And I'll take any questions on that. So
Jeff, did you say that you're going to work on the east of Ottawa before you work on the Dickinson County leg?
no, that the east of Ottawa would have to wait, but from Osawatomie, we're going to start out at Harrington and come east towards Council Grove in 3 phases there, in 3 construction phases, and then there's 2 construction phases that go from Rantoul to Osawatomie, and those 2 we'll do together.
Okay. All right. So is there a place where folks can kind of watch the progress or see a timeline of when construction's happening?
We'll try to do updates on the website, on our department website, and we try to put alerts up there. Like right now, we're working on a big culvert. We actually have that far east end of the trail closed right now because we're doing a large drainage culvert repair down along the river there just west of Osawatomie right now.
All right.
So,
And then on the segment that's close to the BNSF, is there a way for our equestrians to kind of look online somewhere at the BNSF schedule so that maybe they can schedule their ride through there when there's not train traffic happening?
no. Nope,
Okay.
you could not do that. No. I wouldn't I'm sure they have a schedule and try to keep to it, but I wouldn't rely on that. And there's so much train use on there, you couldn't do that. There's that much train use on that in that section. Now, what it does, the best thing to do, if you are interested in that section, really wanting to ride there, I suggest get on Google Earth and study how close the trail is to the actual railroad line and decide for yourself how far away from a honking or blowing train whistle that you want your horse to be or not be. Best place is where you're going to go for the ADT 250 is out the western areas, like from Bush Hong. I try to tell equestrians, you got to get out there to Bush Hong and go from Bush Hong west to Council Grove or to Algoahu Park, because that's the big prairie area right out in the heart of the Flint Hills. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. We're gonna get to that in a minute and kind of share more with everybody. Appreciate that update.
Yeah, that's kind of a good
Alrighty.
segue into our next speaker. We've got, I learned about today, actually, the really exciting event that's going to include the Flint Hills Trail. And we have a speaker, Mike Scanlon, with the Kansas Trails to tell us more about that.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Mike Scanlon. I'm with Kansas Trails Inc. And first, a thank you to Justine, who attended the governor's proclamation signing today at the Capitol for the ADT 250 relay, which will come to Kansas on September 15th. And then here's 2 trivia questions. There are 2 Hall of Fame trails, rail trails in Kansas. Can you name them?
Ooh. Flint Hills Trail being one.
That's one of them.
Landon?
Prairie Spirit.
Oh, okay.
So, and then here's the last Trivial Pursuit question that you can take home and ask anybody in your family. And if they get this right, you need to pay them money. Name the only city in the United States named after a Major League Baseball player.
I know the answer. Do I give it away?
You can.
Okay, Bushong.
You are correct. So take that home. So what I'm talking about is the Sunflower Stretch, roughly 575 miles across Kansas. This is part of the American Discovery Trail. The American Discovery Trail is 6,800 miles long. It goes from Cape Henlopen State Park in Delaware all the way to Point Reyes National Seashore Park in California. So that's the route it takes. It's got a northern sector and a southern sector when you get to the middle of the United States, but 6,800 miles. What makes this sort of fun is we're doing a relay across the United States, and we have all the trail segments laid out. And in Kansas, we have 54 different segments. So if you want to participate in a relay, whether you're on a horse, a road bike, a gravel bike, you're hiking, you have a stroller, no motorized scooters. But you can use almost every other mode of rolling or walking. You can participate in it. We're starting in Coolidge, which is on the western side, all the way to the state line. I would say probably we have the third most miles on the southern route, and we have some of the longest sections that you will find simply because we have long prairie and long trails that can be used as part of it. This is a celebration. It is not a race. Because it's a celebration, it takes from July 4th to Thanksgiving to complete the relay. So we are not the Pony Express. We can't get from St. Joseph to San Francisco in a week. These are all the places we will be stopping along the relay. So these are all the towns and all the segments, the longest segment being Tuesday, September 22nd. And this is where I put in a plug for Justine to talk about what will happen on September 22nd.
Super excited about that. Thank you, Mike. So yeah, that's going to be the equestrian leg, starting at Alegawaho Park and ending at Bouchon. So we're looking forward to having mounted riders and hopefully some wagons joining us on that as we hand the baton. I did bring the baton, by the way. Woo! Look at that.
There you
baton,
go.
which will carry the Constitution in it, or a copy of it, really.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
It's in there right now.
yes, there we are. And so anybody that's interested in joining us, please just reach out to the Kansas Horse Council and we will get you added to the list. It's kind of crazy because we have our waiver that you'll need to sign, and KTI also has a form that they would like you to fill out, and also American Discovery Trails has their piece of it. So since we're all involved, you get to correspond with all of us.
And this is the slide that will tell you all of that information. So click on the QR code. It will take you to a page that will take you through all the things that Justine said. But if you want to be involved on the horse portion, reach out to the Kansas Horse Council and they will help you. And with that, thank you, Justine. And thank you for helping with the governor today.
Thank you, Mike, for all you do. You're doing a great job leading the Trail Alliance of all users. And KTI, if you want to go ahead and tell a little more about KTI, that'd be great.
Sure. So Kansas Trail Inc. is a not-for-profit formed about 18 months ago. And the goal of KTI is to be an umbrella to all the other trail organizations and those people that contribute to trails across Kansas. And I think what I tease people about is most people don't know how many trails we have in Kansas. And when you start telling, well, there's 4,500 we have on our map, but there's another 4,500 we can show. And if you include gravel roads and gravel routes, you can almost add another 10,000 miles. So trails, people being outside, recreating, and whether it's horses, bikes, or walking, all of that benefits both the local economy in terms of health, but also in bringing people to Kansas. I was once a manager in Basalt, Colorado, right below Aspen, and I used to chuckle at all the people that wanted to mountain bike in the mountains. Mountain biking in the mountains, only about 5% of the people can do it well. Mountain biking in Kansas, almost every person can do it well.
That's great. Mike, thanks again.
You're welcome.
All right, and I think, Julie, are you still on? Okay, so we may have lost her, but she had brought up in the chat that, so American Horse Council is very involved with trails and trail equestrian opportunities. And so they stay on top of legislative issues that are going on, as well as our Backcountry Horsemen of America and Kansas. So with that, they are actively working on the U.S. Forest Service roadless rule and also the travel management that they are submitting for the open comment period of travel management plans federally. So just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that that is being watched, and obviously always the equestrian opportunities and access is being sought with all of that advocated for. So thank you all for what you do. All right, so where are we at? Let's see.
Upcoming event.
Okay, yeah, there's a few things going on the schedule. So obviously the Kansas State Fair is coming up quick. There's a draft horse pull and show. I think it starts with the show, and then the pull is maybe towards the middle of it or the end of it. Working equitation at State Fair, and I am exceptionally excited about the KHC Equifest Makeup Ranch Rodeo at the Kansas State Fair. That's on Sunday, September 13th, 5 o'clock performance. Hope everybody comes out and enjoys that. There's also a barrel race, and of course the 4-H State Horse Show is on that last weekend of State Fair. And then following that is the Wild Horse Youth Challenge. So a lot of equine activities at the Kansas State Fair. So I just mentioned the ranch rodeo that we're hosting. It'll have team pinning, stray gathering, calf branding, and trailer loading. We have right now, I believe, 14 teams that are signed up for that. Should be a lot of fun. We also have several rides to the Backcountry Horsemen of Kansas chapter. Well, America, Kansas chapter is kind of our trail arm of the Kansas Horse Council, and we have an MOU with them. They host several benefit trail rides, and those benefit trail rides benefit the state parks that provide us those equestrian trails. So they help with the upkeep, trail maintenance, building new pens, the amenities that support the equestrians. So if you get a chance, check out some of those trail rides. And then next slide. All right, that brings us to
Equine sector priorities. So we kind of started out our day today talking about how those rankings ended last time we met, about this time last year. And so if you scan that QR code now, you can go and rank those priorities and submit those. There's also a URL there, and I believe Justine said she was going to send that out to her Kansas Horse Council membership. So if you're not part of that group, now's an opportunity to join so you can have your voice heard as far as equine sector priorities for the coming year.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for your time today.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's attendance. Again, this is recorded. So if you didn't catch all of that, or you want to share with a friend, we'll have that posted online.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
All right.